Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. So, if you are looking to start or grow a YouTube channel, then you're in the right place. Because I recently interviewed Izzy, who is a friend of mine and a YouTuber with over 500,000 subscribers, and incidentally, one of the most successful alumni of my own course, the Part-Time YouTuber Academy. And Izzy's grown her channel to this point with very few videos and very little work. And so I asked her a whole bunch of questions about her journey on YouTube. And we go through a bunch of advice for people just getting started, but we also go into her fears.
There was a lot of imposter syndrome around this.
And struggles. Because you've got 500,000 subscribers.
Okay.
And you still struggle with it? Like,
of course.
That's interesting. And the emotional side of being a YouTuber.
There were some people who did have bad things to say about my YouTube channel. They did say...
Hopefully, no matter where you are in your journey, this will hopefully be useful for you. So, Izzy, welcome to the YouTube channel. You are one of the most successful alumni of the infamous Part-Time YouTuber Academy, and your channel has grown ridiculously fast, 0 to 500,000 subscribers in around 2 years, and also you haven't posted that many videos. Like, you've posted maybe a fifth of the number of videos that I posted to get to the same amount. And so I was thinking in this video, there's a bunch of people who follow my stuff, who want to either start or grow a YouTube channel. So I was hoping we could talk through some of the tips that we would have in terms of the psychology, in terms of the emotions, in terms of the practical, tangible, actionable tidbits that people can take away to help them grow faster on YouTube. How does that sound?
Great, that sounds great.
Fantastic. For people who might not know your channel yet, would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. My name's Izzy. I am a doctor. I graduated from Cambridge. Actually, we went to the same medical school, and I have a YouTube channel, and I sometimes upload videos there.
Sometimes upload videos. It's a very humble way of putting it.
So I talk about personal development, language learning, health and well-being kind of topics, and yeah.
Nice. And to what extent has your YouTube channel changed your life?
It has completely changed my life in every single way imaginable, which is kind of bizarre because I wasn't expecting that when I started it just over 2 years ago. I was approaching it as a bit of an experiment. I thought, I'll just see what happens if I try challenging myself to start a YouTube channel. And now here we are, 500,000 subscribers later. It's completely changed my life in terms of like friendships. I've met so many interesting creators and connect with cool people over the world. I felt like I can have an impact and share what I want to talk about with other people, and they're actually interested to hear what I have to say. And then also financially as well, obviously YouTube does give you kind of AdSense and sponsorship opportunities as well. So literally like every single aspect of my life has been changed by this decision to start a YouTube channel.
And at what point did you realize that YouTube could actually be a viable, I guess, full-time income?
There was a point about just over a year ago where I was working full-time as a doctor. So in the UK, it's called Foundation Year 1, basically the first year after graduating. Doctors in the UK aren't actually paid that much. But there was a point in around October last year where the AdSense revenue from my YouTube channel, which I was sort of uploading a video to every like 2 weeks or so, or like maybe even once a month, exceeded the monthly salary from my full-time job as a doctor. And I was like, oh my goodness, because I would be working maybe 50 hours a week at my day job and spending a couple of hours, maybe 4 hours a week on my YouTube channel. And this just didn't really make sense to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, the system is broken. How is this happening? And that's the point where I realized, oh, this is actually making more money than my full-time gig with just AdSense. So this is ignoring any other like sponsorships or any other ways that you can monetize a YouTube channel, because I wasn't really trying to monetize it that hard at that point. I was just trying to keep making videos. And yeah, that was a big light bulb moment for me.
Nice. So I'd love to kind of trace your journey from kind of sort of chronologically through time, because I think there's some interesting learnings along the way. A lot of people that watch this channel want to start a YouTube channel. When we do community polls and stuff, maybe 30% of the audience is, I want to start a channel, but I haven't started yet. And when we dig deeper into that, we find that a lot of the reasons why people don't start a channel at all is because of fear. There's some sort of fear that's holding them back. How did you get over that fear? And I guess what was that experience of getting over the fear of starting the channel initially?
I felt like prior to starting my YouTube channel, I actually had a lot of fear around even just posting on Instagram to the 500 followers who were my friends or people I knew from school or uni. I felt a lot of fear around even doing that. So actually YouTube was this thing of like, okay, how can I challenge myself and do the craziest thing that would be the scariest and see if I can do that. And I was like, okay, I'll start a YouTube channel. And getting over the fear of starting was a combination of a few things. I think the first thing that I had to realize was, if I don't try this, I'll never know if I could do it and if I could push myself. And realistically, all the fear is in my head. And so if I can think of ways to reframe it and embrace it instead of resist it, that would help me to actually get going and do this thing. So for me, that looked like reminding myself that probably no one's going to be watching my videos to start with, which was true. They only got like a few hundred views maybe for months and months and months. My videos would like cap at like maybe 200 views, 300 views for most of my videos. So I was like, okay, cool. This kind of feels like a safe space where it doesn't really matter if it's embarrassing or if it's bad. I can just put something out there and probably no one's going to watch it anyway. So that kind of felt like, okay, that feels safe. The second thing was I was reminding myself that actually no one's really going to care if I start a YouTube channel. No one's really going to comment on it or like be negative for no reason. And if they do, that says more about them than it does about me. Because I'm the person actually trying to do something, I'm giving it a go. I'm not hurting anyone, I'm just making silly internet videos. And so I try to remind myself of those two things, and also this whole thing of actually like, if I didn't try this, I would never know, and that would probably eat me alive a little bit. So
I love it. Oh, by the way, quick thing. If you are looking for some specific advice on exactly what to do depending on what stage of the YouTube growth journey you're at, whether you're a beginner or intermediate or advanced, then you should definitely check out my completely free YouTube growth scorecard. It's basically a free quiz. It will ask you a few questions to get a sense of where you are, and then it will give you tailored recommendations based on what your answers are. So that'll be linked down below, and it's completely free. What made you decide to join the Part-Time YouTuber Academy?
So Ali and I actually knew each other from medical school. We went to the same college doing medicine, a few years apart. And I remember when I was planning on starting my YouTube channel, I was like, oh yeah, like I remember Ali from med school. He has a YouTube channel. I'll message him and ask for some tips, see if I can join this course. And I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. And when I looked at what the course was about, I was like, oh, Part-Time YouTuber Academy, perfect. I wasn't thinking of it as a full-time gig at that time at all. I was thinking, oh, this is like a fun little hobby that I could do and fun little challenge for myself. Maybe I can earn a few pennies or something like that, pay for lunch in like the long run. And so I was like, okay, I'll try this out. Seems to fit what I'm kind of going for with this.
You start off making videos, they're not getting that much traction, they're getting a couple hundred views, but mostly those views are coming from the fact that other people in the YouTuber Academy are sort of watching each other's videos and stuff.
Which is another reason you should join the pod.
Yeah, exactly. You get free views. What was the first video that really took off? And why did it take off, do you think?
It was the video about learning Mandarin. I had gone on this little Mandarin learning journey for around 6 months or so beforehand, where I was intensively self-studying Mandarin, and it didn't take off as soon as I posted the video. It was kind of a flat line for ages, but then gradually, I think it was being searched by people and being picked up in search of like how to learn Mandarin, and slowly gained views until the point where it had this like exponential curve and then suddenly popped off. And I think the reason why this one took off was a combination of things. Firstly, it's very searchable. So even for a channel which doesn't really have many subscribers, it could actually be picked up in search gradually over time. The second thing was that actually the video was about a topic that not everybody can make a video on. So it wasn't overly saturated. It was like, actually, this was a slightly different take to learning Mandarin. It is an interesting topic, and also lots of people are keen to do it. So in the Part-Time YouTuber Academy, one thing that you talked about was figuring out what kind of video do people desperately need and actually would give them a lot of value. And so people searching for how to learn Mandarin, they're like desperate to figure out, okay, how can I learn Mandarin? And this video was answering that question. Whereas some of my other videos, which were like, for example, about habits, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. It's not answering really a specific question, and it's easy for anybody to make that kind of video. But to make the Mandarin video, I had a competitive advantage in that I was actually doing the thing, which takes hundreds of hours to actually do it. So I think it's some kind of combination of those things, and people resonated with it, and that one took off.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. What we have seen from like 4,000 plus students in the YouTuber Academy is that one of the biggest predictors of success on YouTube, at least in this sort of talking head educational content it's sort of educational content rather than entertainment content, which is completely different. One of the biggest predictors of success for educational content is, does the person actually have expertise in the thing that they are trying to talk about? Now, you can get this expertise from doing the work yourself. Like, you did the work to learn Mandarin over a 6-month period and put hundreds of hours into it. And so now when you make a video about it, it's automatically going to be way better than, I don't know, a video that someone makes where they're trying to summarize a book or something. Because you've got the personal experience, and there's something about that people can just tell that, oh my goodness, this person has done the work. And I think you see this in like Alex Hormozy stuff blowing up. Like, he's literally built $100 million businesses. It's obvious that he's built $100 million businesses. And even if he didn't say it, the way that he talks about it, the advice that he gives, it's just really obvious that it's coming from deep personal experience. And that really resonates with people on YouTube. I think the other way of getting that experience is just doing loads and loads and loads of research. So for example, Johnny Harris does tons and tons of research into his videos. He's not leaning into particular expertise advantages, well, other than the fact that Johnny Harris is a journalist and has been doing it for 20 years. You know, in the course, we talk about this idea of proof of work. The audience wants to see proof that you have done the work. And you can do that by clearly showing that, hey, I've been on this journey and this is what I applied. You can do it by doing loads of reading, loads of research, but that's one of the ways that you really stand out in a saturated market. But if you'd started out just making videos about 5 productivity tips, how I stay organized with Notion, it's like hundreds of people are already doing those things. But the video that went viral was the one about Mandarin.
Yeah. Which was a surprise to me as well, because when I started the channel, I was like, oh, I'll just try talking about a couple of things I'm interested in. And Mandarin was a bit of a throwaway, because I was like, oh, this is quite different to all the other videos I've made, but I'll just make it anyway, because no one's watching my channel anyway, so may as well. And actually, that's another thing I'd say, is that early on, it is worth experimenting with different kinds of content. The kind of videos that you think that you might end up making could be quite different to actually what people actually resonate with. So try out a couple of things, give it a go for a couple of your interests and a couple of topics. And while you're starting out, just think of it as an experiment. I still feel like I'm experimenting with my YouTube channel.
One of the things we often teach on the course is this idea of treating your YouTube channel like a business. Now, I wonder for you, so we've got some mutual friends now who, for example, treat YouTube as a hobby. They're not that intentional about it. They're doing it for themselves and they're doing it for fun. And they're saying, I'm going to make the videos that I want to make. Whereas the people who treat it more like a business, a business is an entity that provides value to others. It's not really about you, it's about what value you can give to others. And it's not really about, I want to have fun. It's more about, how can I add so much value to other people's lives that I'm able to monetize some proportion of that value. So I'm curious for you, what are the ways in which you treated YouTube as a business in the early days?
Yeah. So early on, I was trying to figure out which parts of the process I actually wanted to do versus actually wanted to outsource. And this was something that PTYA actually helped to inspire me to do in figuring out what I can outsource, what I can delegate to other people, was a really valuable question to have. And so fairly early on, I decided to outsource my editing. So I was like, okay, I've edited a couple of my videos. I kind of know how the thing works, but actually this is taking me a lot of time and I'm not loving it. So could I find somebody who does enjoy doing it, who is offering their services as a freelancer on Upwork or Fiverr or PPH, and see if they could do it for me? And so then I put out some ads for that and then started to delegate very, very early on. I think this was a couple of months into my YouTube channel, before it was making any money at all. So this was a bit of an investment from my part. I remember I was tutoring on italki to pay for the editing, because I thought, okay, I can tutor on italki, and with 2 or 3 hours of tutoring, I can pay for somebody to edit a video, which would usually take me 8 hours. So I was like, okay, that seems like a good deal. I'll do it. So I think approaching it from this aspect of okay, what is actually my unique offering to this business? And what do I do best? What do I enjoy? And what can I actually delegate to others was a big thing. I think the other thing was thinking of it as an investment. So the reason why I decided to do this tutoring in order to pay for the editing wasn't because I was purely approaching it just as a hobby. I was like, okay, I want to do this thing. Sure, I'm a bit inconsistent. I'm only posting videos every 2 weeks, maybe every month. As long as I keep at that kind of cadence, that's fine. And so the reason why I was doing that is because I was like, okay, where's this going to go? I'm going to do this for at least a year or two and throw this money and time into the well and see what comes out at the end of that.
So you have been struggling with consistency is the impression that I get.
Absolutely.
Like someone while watching this will be feeling the struggle and they want to sort of relate.
Yeah.
And I don't struggle with consistency. And so they can't relate to me.
Yeah,
right? So,
that's
but
true,
you struggle with
actually.
consistency, so they can totally relate to you. So
Why don't you
does it
struggle
feel?
with consistency? Have you ever struggled with consistency?
No, not really. There have been times recently, but it's, I'm 6.5 years into my channel. I can afford to take a break. I have enough money. Like there's all of those factors. I think the thing that was driving me so much in the early days was I need to buy my financial freedom.
Yeah.
And when that is the thing, it's like what I'm trying to escape the fate of all these doctors that I see, where they're shackled to a job that they freaking hate. And that is such a profound motivator that I'm like, of course I've got to stay consistent. I've got the opportunity to literally escape the matrix, as it were.
Yeah.
And so when people in our academy would struggle with consistency, I wouldn't really be able to relate to the emotions behind it, because for me the why behind it was so strong that I'm escaping the matrix, obviously. Before I had the language of escaping the matrix. Yeah. Escaping wage slavery. But you struggle with consistency, and I suspect I want to make money and be financially free is less of a core driver for you.
Yeah, very much so. I think I probably approach it less towards the business end than you. So obviously there's a spectrum of hobby to business. I think I'm somewhere in the middle where I want to enjoy making videos. I want to enjoy the process and feel like I'm making videos that I'm excited by. And I'm not really willing to sacrifice that for escaping the matrix. Completely. Although I do approach certain elements of it with a kind of business mindset. Not everything is. It's very much this whole creative business, I guess, where there's something in the middle. So I think for me, I would sometimes get into this cycle where I would feel like, I should make a video to be consistent because everyone says consistency is so important and all of that. But then I'd feel like, I'm not really feeling it. I'm either tired or I'm really busy or I feel uninspired. I'm like, what am I going to talk about anyway? And it just didn't feel alive or exciting. And so there were times when I'd push through and I'd be like, okay, Izzy, you are going to make a video. And I'd make myself make the video. But then I'd always feel a bit worse about my YouTube channel after that. And so it was this real struggle of figuring out how can I enjoy making videos while also having some kind of schedule. And I think one thing that helped me a lot was changing the focus from output, as in how many videos I'm doing per week, to the actual input instead. And that was actually a big helper for me and my channel. So instead of feeling like, okay, I have to do one video every single week, no matter what, it was like, okay, I just have to dedicate this time to input into my YouTube side hustle and then see when a video feels ready from that. So it felt less tense and less stressful. And
nice.
One thing I've also realized is that the biggest existential risk to my YouTube channel is me not enjoying making videos, which is not really what I want. I want to kind of enjoy what I'm doing. So that's kind of how I think about it. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. You have a bunch of other friends who struggle with consistency. What are some of the struggles that they have as well? Is it the same idea of I feel like I'm forcing myself to do this thing and I don't really want to do the thing, or what is it?
I think you're quite unique in that having your motivation was enough to push you to be consistent. Because a lot of people, they feel like they have the strong why, but they don't follow through on it. And so what do you think about you and your approach to YouTube was different to everyone else who says they have a strong why? For example, I don't know, me or other people, but they don't follow through necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, this is I've written a whole book about this. It's called can you pass that over, please? This I carry this around everywhere with me. This is literally what my book Feel Good Productivity is about. I think it's easy to get into the thing of it's either or. It's either I enjoy the process or I stay consistent. And I found very early on that the way to make anything sustainable is to make sure you're having fun along the way. I never had any outcome goals. I never cared about subscriber count or milestones or anything like that. The only goal I had was I'm just going to make one video a week. and I'm going to try and enjoy the process of doing that. I'm going to try and get a little bit better each time. So sometimes I'd be trying out new editing tactics and stuff because I was editing my own videos for the first 2 years, and that would give me this dopamine boost of like I'm leveling up. Leveling up is a thing that drives intrinsic motivation. Sometimes I'd kind of do my editing. I'd like take my laptop into work and do the editing in like the doctor's common room, just for a little bit of a change of scenery. When I was a medical student, going into work was somewhat optional, so I joined the ward round in the morning, be very specific about what patient I wanted to see, and then go into the doctor's mess or in the coffee shop and do the editing there. And so just kind of approaching YouTube in the same way that I've approached like my business or my studies, which is how do I find a way to make this a little bit more enjoyable, knowing that that's the thing that's going to energize me and going to keep it sustainable. And I'm absolutely addicted to making everything a little bit more fun. Because I don't believe in the whole like discipline, coercion kind of narrative.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you found helpful in the early days to sort of get over the emotional hurdles and staying consistent and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, another thing I would say is that often we think that everyone's looking at us, and there's this thing called the spotlight effect. You talk about it a bit as well sometimes, where we think that, we have a spotlight on our own lives, and we think everyone else must be paying just as much scrutiny to us as we to ourselves, but actually they're worried about their own lives. They're not really worrying about us. And that's quite a liberating thought when you realize, no one's really worrying about what I'm doing that much. It's kind of freeing. And I can follow my own heart and my own dreams without worrying too much. On that point, though, I do know that there is a fear like, what if there is somebody who says something bad about my YouTube channel? And I can really relate to this fear because I had the exact same worry. And actually it came true to an extent. There were some people who did have bad things to say about my YouTube channel. They did say, oh my God, guess who started a YouTube channel? And I would hear about this on the grapevine. And it would hurt. It would feel bad. But one thing that I think about in terms of this is that no one who has started a successful YouTube channel will talk badly about a beginner on YouTube. They would never. They'd be like, I remember when I was in your shoes, and I remember how hard it was, and I respect you for giving it a go and trying to do this thing, putting yourself out there, feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And so I just remember, actually one of these people who would even talk a bit badly about me and my YouTube channel, they actually had tried to start their own YouTube channel a year before, but then they'd given up, and then they decided to try to rain on my parade. And so it's this whole thing of most people are either going to be supportive and nice, or they won't really care either way. They'll be like, okay, cool, you do you. And the people who are going to be negative, if there are any, what they're saying says much more about them than it does about you. And you are on a different path to them. You have chosen to put yourself out there, to try this thing, start a new business, start a YouTube channel, learn a new language, anything like this. You have decided on a different path and you're following your own dreams. So don't let one or two people who might say a few negative things, which says more about them than it does about you, stop you from doing the things that you want and living the life that you love. That's what I would say.
That was really good. That was so good. I felt like my sort of the strings of my heart being tugged out there with like that motivational workshop.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
I honestly feel emotional when I talk about it because it is a real struggle that I had early on. I think a lot of people do have, and that fear around judgment, fear of failure as well, or even fear of success. You're like, what's going to happen if actually this video blows up? Is it going to reach 1 million people? Then I'll get loads of haters, and there are going to be negative comments. There are going to be positive ones as well. And one thing that I did early on was I actually trained myself to be extremely equanimous when it came to the YouTube comments. So whether there was a negative one or a positive one, I'd be like, okay, I'll just meditate and try to remove all this craving and aversion to the comments. But over time, I've also realized that is also in itself a bit of a crutch in a way, because it prevents me from feeling the positive comments deeply. And so when I see comments on my channel, now I kind of try to approach it instead of being like, okay, they're just the comments, don't worry about the comments. I think, okay, like somebody is showing me genuine appreciation. They're saying thank you for this amazing video. And I should feel that. That's a person that's connected with my video. And that's amazing. That's just somewhere in the world. And they've watched this video of me and taken the time to reach out and let me know that they appreciated it. So feeling that as well is so important. And also recognizing that negative comments, they're usually actually more about the person writing it than about you. Because if I saw a video that I didn't necessarily love, I wouldn't take the time to say something mean to the person for no reason. And I don't think you would either, the person watching this. I doubt you would. Because it's like, okay, they're doing their thing. That's cool, they can keep doing their thing. So try to sort of, what I would say is try to like relax into, okay, there is going to be all of this response to my videos at some point, maybe not super early on, but at some point. And that's fine. It's just all okay as it is. And you can just welcome it in. That's what I would say.
Nice.
Love that. Is that enough?
Love that.
Love that.
One issue that I still have to this day is when I hit record.
Yeah.
I get this sort of feeling of sort of pressure rising up. Of like, it feels like this big weight that like, and it feels like a big kind of push that I have to do to get started with filming the videos.
Yeah. Oh, I have that too.
Can you tell me more? Like, what are the internal narratives that go on when you think about or you start filming a video?
So when I put up little Q&As on my Instagram about, what questions do you have about YouTube? They often ask, like, how are you confident on camera? How can you talk to a camera and come across naturally? I think it's really common to feel really tense in front of the camera. I definitely did at the start. And even to this day, there's a sense of like, oh, I'm performing and presenting to the camera, which I'm always trying to negotiate with.
Do you feel like you're doing that right now?
Yes. And so the solution that I have tried to work towards is actually imagining I'm just talking to one person. So whether that's, initially it was my sister or my mum, I was just like, okay, I'm just making a video for my sister, or I'm just making a video for my mum. No big deal. It's chill. I can just be me and like relax in front of the camera, and it's not like this big old presentation. Remember that you also have full control in the edit, and if you don't like it for whatever reason, you can just get rid of it. It's fine. It's just, you're just filming a video. But now one thing I think about is this idea of a target avatar. This is essentially who I imagine I'm talking to. So I have this idea of somebody called Bella, who is 22 years old, just graduated uni, kind of like me a few years ago, but obviously not doing medicine because medicine's a long ass course. So somebody kind of a bit like me who's interested in personal development, they're interested in taking care of their health and well-being. She wants to level up, she wants to learn a language, maybe Mandarin. And I imagine, okay, I'm talking to Bella and talking to myself from a few years ago. It's almost this like younger sister role. And I think for everybody it's going to be different who their target avatar is. But just having this idea of like one person that you can speak directly to and share your personal experiences with is a really powerful way of getting past this feeling of like, oh my God, I'm talking into this like black hole of this lens, like what is going on? Which is really, it feels unnatural because it is unnatural. So by having that image in your head of I'm talking to Bella or I'm talking to whoever that is for you, can help us to feel more confident and share our message more authentically.
Sick. That's good. That's a really good strategy. I find I find that whenever I do the one person thing, it also massively helps. Yeah. Question: how did it feel when I'm asking you the feelingsy type questions because I feel like when you were doing the speak from the heart thing, that was like really, really powerful. How did it feel when you started hiring people? I remember one time you messaged me and I was encouraging you to hire like a head of content or something, and you had a lot of like, oh no, I couldn't possibly hire someone because that would mean I'm a business person and I'm not a business person. Like there was that. Yeah. What was that experience like for you?
There was a lot of imposter syndrome around this identity of being a YouTuber or business owner, because I felt like, oh, that couldn't possibly be me. I'm just Izzy. I'm just doing medicine, or like medical student, or like I'm just a doctor. This is me. And I think having that actual moment where I was like, when I hit 100k subscribers, I remember that day I was like, oh, I've literally got a silver play button plaque coming in the post. I guess I'm kind of a YouTuber. And that was the day that I felt like, oh, okay, now I'm actually a YouTuber. And equally with the whole business thing, the day that I put out these applications for my head of content was the day that I felt like, oh, okay, maybe this is actually a real business rather than just me messing around and like doing tutoring on the side to pay for freelancers and that kind of thing.
I think it's useful for people to hear that even someone who is on the outside successful on YouTube, and your channel has grown sort of ridiculously fast, one of the fastest growing channels I have ever come across. It's very useful for people to hear that even someone who's very successful on YouTube struggles with all of the things that you're talking about, struggles with the consistency, struggles with worrying what other people will think, struggles with negative comments, struggles with like hiring people. For example, your videos are very polished. You don't do videos where you just sit and talk to the camera and speak from the heart for like 3 hours at a time and share all your feelings and stuff.
Yeah.
You maybe might record for 2 hours and that would turn into a 13-minute video, which your editor has like chopped the hell out of, put loads of B-roll on. It's like, it's very produced, which is similar to mine.
Yeah.
And so all people get is like, oh my goodness, Izzy's got it all together. And I really noticed this with my channel, where, there was this agency called 16th that I really wanted to join back in the day. It's like, these other study tubers that I knew, like Jade and Ruby and Jack, they're all part of this agency, and it seemed like this club. And I really wanted to get an invite to the club, but no one ever reached out to me from 16th. And then a few years later, I happened to become friends with the founder of the company. And I said to him, hey man, why didn't you guys reach out to me? And he said, oh, I mean, we wanted to, but it seemed like you had it all so together. It seemed like you just knew what you were doing and you were just crushing it. It seemed like you didn't need us. And I was like, oh, wow. Like the impression that my channel gave in the early days was I had my shit together.
Yeah.
But the actual internal reality was all of these kind of issues. I mean, I didn't struggle with consistency, but all of the other issues where I felt like left out. No one's reaching out to me. I'm not getting any sponsorships. I feel like my channel's big enough. Like, come on, what's going on? And it just looked like I was coasting and chilling. And so I think this is why I'm so keen on talking about these sort of internal struggles, because if there's even one person listening to this who has been thinking that they are a dumbass because they're having all these feelings and all these, and all these issues, hearing someone else that they can possibly relate to who is successful and yet also having all these issues, I think is profoundly valuable.
Yeah.
So I know to you it feels like a ramble, but what feels like a ramble to you can be genuinely life-changing advice to other people.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I do have issues. I have
you heard
issues.
it here.
I do struggle with my YouTube channel. It feels like every few weeks I have... So I've started doing this thing. I've always had a strong journaling practice. But at some point I realized that I had a lot of feelings around my YouTube channel that were not adequately addressed in just like a personal journal, or it was starting to dominate. So actually I started a specific business journal is what I called it when I decided, okay, I'm going to embrace this idea that actually it's a business. And so, okay, my business journal, I'm going to write about all my feelings about my business, loads of limiting beliefs around money and imposter syndrome, and like who do I think I am to even say that I'm a YouTuber and I have a YouTube business? Like what on earth is that? And so I'd have all these limiting beliefs around that and just try to like consistently challenge those. And I still struggle with those to this day, and I don't think I'll ever stop struggling with them. I think they just gradually get soothed down over time, but they're always going to be there. And I think a lot of people do have these limiting beliefs that they struggle with. Actually, it was interesting because going to this Tony Robbins event called Business Mastery, and there he talked a lot about getting into state. So basically like getting like hyped up. He would literally get us like dance and like do all this raising our hands up in the air. And then while in that state being like, okay, how do I feel now? Like, how do I feel about committing to certain actions for my business? That's actually quite helpful because it gets me out of my head and more into actually this sensation of feeling capable and feeling like actually I can do things and feeling open to just giving things a go, that kind of energy. So I do find that helpful.
Nice. And while we're here, would you recommend people interested in starting a YouTube channel to join the Part-Time YouTuber Academy?
Sorry.
Bit of a non-sponsored, you aren't being paid to say any of this for the record.
Yeah, no, I'm not being paid to say any of this stuff.
Although you do have an affiliate link.
I do, yeah. So I can put my affiliate link. Yeah, down below in your video. No, maybe not. Anyway, would I recommend it? I would 100% recommend it if you are looking for something to save you the confusion. I think that was the main thing, was that when I was trying to figure out, okay, how do you start a YouTube channel? There's so much noise and so much conflicting advice out there. People saying like, you need to do this, you need to like only focus on your title and thumbnail. People saying that like, actually like it's all about the content. People who are saying that like, you need to have loads of primary colors in your thumbnail or have a Mr. Beast face in your thumbnail. And I was like, is this all real? And so the Part-Time YouTuber Academy distilled down a lot of the stuff that was out there, because I mean, fundamentally all the information is kind of out there, scattered around the internet and with conflicting kind of messages, but it kind of distilled it all down and was in one place. I was like, okay, if I just follow this roadmap, this will be a really solid start to my YouTube journey. So I would highly recommend it, especially if you're kind of beginner or like earlier on in your YouTube journey. I think it's much more relevant then. And I also actually connected with a few cool creators via the Part-Time YouTuber Academy. So I actually also started a podcast with them called Milliseconds Apart for a little bit. We've not been very consistent, but I think that's a theme for my YouTube channel slightly. And yeah, so would highly recommend it. So check out the link below if you're interested in
Nice.
The Part-Time YouTuber Academy.
That was good.
Did I do that
Completely
right?
unrehearsed. Like genuinely, actually unrehearsed. So that was very solid. What are some of the narratives that go through your mind? You mentioned you had all these limiting beliefs. Like, can you give us a flavor of some of them?
Some of the limiting beliefs that I struggle with is like, oh, this sense of imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to make this video? Am I the right person to make this video? But the thing that I've realized over time is that, in fact, there's no one else who can make my video other than me. If I weren't making my video, it just wouldn't exist and it wouldn't be out there. And if I even have something to share that would help one person, then it's worth actually making that video.
I think the fact that you're struggling with it today is even better.
Why?
What's because you've got 500,000 subscribers.
Okay.
And you still struggle with it? Like,
of course.
That's interesting.
Of course I still struggle.
I mean, I still struggle with it as well, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts, and then I'll share mine.
What are your thoughts? Why don't you share your thoughts?
Every time I make a video, I think, what's the point of making this video? And I literally have a list of things that I read out to myself, like affirmations, that remind me why I'm doing this. These are the things that I remind myself. I don't care about the performance of this video. My only goal in making it is to share a message that I think is worth sharing for whoever wants to hear it. I intend to integrate my mind, heart, and soul to share this message in a way that feels authentic and natural. I'm not trying to force anything here. I'm merely speaking from the heart, with the mind to inform structure and content, and the soul to remain connected to the purpose behind the video. Wow, that's so cringe, am I right?
I love it.
I'm going to enjoy myself and treat this process with lightness and ease.
Lightness and ease, so sweet.
When I'm on my deathbed, I'd give anything to be back here, in the present moment, doing what I love, sharing myself with the world in a way that's enjoyable and energizing.
When you're on your deathbed, oh my goodness.
I'm going to keep that in mind and not treat this process with too much seriousness, heaviness, or importance. And finally, I'm speaking to an individual who really cares what I have to say and who really wants to learn from me to level up their own life. I'm in service to that person, not to my own ego, not to the retention stats, not to the algorithm. I'm purely in service to the person who has clicked on this video and whose life could be genuinely changed by what I'm about to say.
I love that.
And I literally read this out before filming videos so that it gets me into the right state where I feel less of like, oh, this has to get a million views, this has to get 100,000 views. Oh, if the view count goes down, the bloody sponsors are going to start reducing our rate, and then we've got all these expenses and we're going to be broke, homeless, and alone, and all of this sort of stuff is where the mind can spiral into. Even for someone like me who on the surface seems to have their shit together.
Yeah, that's so true. I think I've really struggled with metrics as well.
Nice.
And I think it's this whole thing of where when you start to see the numbers go up, then you start to be a bit obsessed over the numbers. You're like, okay, the numbers are no longer going up as much as it was going up before. Oh no, is the world ending? Is the YouTube channel going to die? Is this like the start of the end? Is this all going to sort of collapse around me and just be nothing? Because on the YouTube Studio dashboard, I know you are very familiar with this, but there are these arrows that kind of either point up as a kind of up green arrow or like a down grey arrow, depending on how your channel's performance is relative to its like usual. And obviously, with something like YouTube, it's going to kind of undulate and be this slight wave of, okay, things going up sometimes are going down. that's absolutely fine. But having these gray arrows appear on your YouTube Studio feels really bad. And literally in YouTube Studio, if you have a really well-performing video, it will have like fireworks and sparkles appear if it's like a 1 out of 10 video, which means it's like the best performing video out of the previous 10 videos that you've had. And so literally, like, even the way the studio is designed is to get you and to feel like you need to make things perform better. And I've sometimes found that focusing too much on that is actually really unhealthy and develops this very metric focused mindset when it comes to my YouTube channel, rather than a kind of purpose and service focused approach. For most of my videos, the first thing that I come up with after thinking of the main concept is what I call the heart of the video. And this is where I just ramble for a little bit on my keyboard about, okay, why am I making this video? What is the point of this video? Who is this video for? And what question am I answering with this video? And I'll just write a little bit about this and get a little bit soppy and have a good time. And that gives me the sense of connection to the purpose of the video. The problem with the metrics is that it kind of takes away from that, and it's like, okay, the video needs to hit 100k views or needs to do XYZ, or if it doesn't do that, then the sponsors are gonna be unhappy with it. I can't make an experimental video because there's a high chance it's going to tank. Tank is kind of negative language, I guess, but there's a high chance that not as many people are going to be interested in it because it's a new topic or a random thing. There is a small chance that actually it will do really well, or actually I will love making the video. But this obsession with metrics and numbers almost dampens down on this creative spirit and connection with purpose. So that is another thing that I continually struggle with. And over time, it's getting a little bit better as I'm learning to recognize when that pattern is starting. A lot of creative friends I've spoken to have had this exact same struggle with metrics. I think Matt Diavella literally made a Chrome plugin called Goodbye Metrics, is it?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Or like No Metrics, something along those lines, where it basically hides all the metrics on YouTube Studio to just let you actually focus on creating something that you love, rather than worrying about whether the arrows are green or grey, or whether there's fireworks or no fireworks. So I guess another thing I would say is try not to worry too much about the metrics going on in the YouTube Studio. They are helpful, especially some bits of the analytics around like click-through rate for thumbnails and titles early on in a video's performance, or things like A/B testing, which kind of use the metrics to inform decisions around thumbnails and titles. But other than that, try to keep the creative spirit alive and find that sense of fun and enjoyment in what you're making, to be truly making content that you're really proud of.
And if you want a practical guide on how to make the content more fun, check out my book.
Yeah, check out Ollie's book. Did you guys know that the secret to productivity isn't discipline? It's joy. If you want to find out how to find more joy in your work and the things that you're doing and life generally, would highly recommend this book. It's this whole roadmap with 3 sections to it of how to find energy from the work that you're doing, whether that's your career or whether that's just a healthy habit you want to do, like, I don't know, going to the gym 3 times a week. And so yeah, highly recommend this. Ollie's put in so much work, and there's so much research and thought that's gone into this book, and it's a completely new way of approaching productivity, which I feel like is very needed, because over the last maybe 5 or so years, there's been this sense of, oh, you just need discipline, or like motivation is a myth. I don't personally necessarily feel that way, and I think my experiences with my YouTube channel and my business have really clarified that does not work for me, and I think it doesn't work for many people as well. So this is a nice middle way where it redefines the relationship we have with productivity. So check it out.
That was really good for someone who's not even read the book. That was actually a very solid sponsored plug.
You're so welcome.
Which you're not being paid for the record.
Yeah, where's my money?
Yeah, that's what happened.
I'm actually a business owner, so I'm going to demand some.
Yeah, well, let's see. Like really leaning into that identity. Where can people find more about you? And what video should we link over here? Do you want to do an end screen sales pitch as we teach in the course as part of the Hives framework?
Yeah, okay. You can find me over on my YouTube channel and on Instagram or all the other socials at Izzy Seeley. So check me out over there. I make videos about personal development, language learning. If you're learning Mandarin, then check out some of my Mandarin learning videos. If you enjoyed this video, we also did another video over on my channel, which you might want to check out. I will link it somewhere over here. I don't know where it's going to be, but it's going to be somewhere on screen, where we talk more about YouTube tips, and I ask Ali a bit more about his experience with YouTube and what pro tips he would have for somebody who wants to start a life-changing YouTube channel. So check that out if you're interested.
Amazing. Thanks very much. Thank you, Izzy. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.